welcome to today's edition of Opinion Leaders Angle, where opinion leaders and groundbreakers are interviewed to appraise the state of the nation with a particular trending topic of national concern. I am Agape Okemiri, and today we will be discussing the present political journey and also the rise in insecurity in the country. I will not be doing this alone. I have with me here today a top Nigerian politician, a philanthropist, a lover of education and empowerment, and a two-term governor of Ogun State, Otunba Gbenga Daniel. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, viewers.
Such a privilege to finally have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, so just before we get into the main discussion, we want to know more about you, sir, especially your journey. In less than 48 hours, you'd be clocking 305, the big 65. So we'd love to know what you would call defining moments of your formative years and educational journey.
Well, thank you very much. Let's put it this way. We must give thanks to Almighty for attaining what we can call a very ripe age of 65. In this environment, especially where life expectancy is no more than about 50 from United Nations statistics. It's been a challenging, long, but exciting journey. And I think that one can say that everything that I have been able to touch, I can see the hands of God.
Okay.
Primary school was very exciting. Secondary school was very, very exciting. One can even say those days at the Baptist Boys' School in Agape Okemiri can be described as one's real formative, where you imbibed the culture of having mentors and people that you look forward to. And that has helped tremendously in what one have become.
Okay.
Because at those early ages, we were lucky to have eminent personalities in all fields that we look up to, many of whom attended our school. Politically, we feel proud when we say that Chief Awolowo attended at some point in time that school. We feel proud that the person who was able to hand over the surrender of the Biafra Republic happened to be, at that time, General Olusegun Obasanjo, who also was an indigent, was an alumni of that. So we have so many. You feel that in the fields of law, you have Prince Bola Ajibola, who at some point in time was a judge of the World Court in The Hague. We felt good that some vice chancellors, that the late Professor Aboyande, who was then the vice chancellor, was an alumni of that school. So at any point in time, there are so many things, people that, give us hope and give us a sense of determination that we also must become something. And placing a lot of emphasis on this because the breakdown of law and order, a number of the challenges we have today in our country actually stems from those formative years. So for us as alumni of that school, there is no other word in whatever we touch other than to be successful, and we're usually quite determined. University was not an exception. Great institution at the Lagos, University of Lagos, great people, great alumni, and so those are what one will call one's formative years. At the university, of course, you know how it is during our own time. We read all sorts of books apart from engineering. We would go to the library, study Marxist-Leninism, read about communist China, about the exploit of Chairman Mao Zedong, and talked about the Russian Revolution of 1917, the Chinese Revolution of 1949, and that's the Cultural Revolution. And then we looked about the American civil rights years, story of Martin Luther King. So we were inspired by an array of people. And also locally in Nigeria, we had the great Zeke, the great Awo, Madu Bello. We have also had all sorts of people that I still remember. Look at the man who was pregnant in the East. I still have vivid recollection of Opara with his red cap. But we had also people who brought a lot of drama into the polity. As we're growing up, we're looking at these people. We had Dr. Badiwe, who was then referred to as the man of timber and caliber because of some of the big words he brought into the policy. Well, it looks like drama, but it's also brought a lot of color to what was happening in those days. But more than anything else, there was ideological bent. And of course, you had two distinctive schools of thought, the polity, the people who are on the left, talking about socialists, communist Leninism, and of course the people who are on the right, who looked at the American model, the British model, and so on and so forth. So, but as young people, it was not fashionable to be on the right. It was indeed fashionable to be a leftist. And that is how we went through school. But coming out of school and going into real life, it's very, very clear that success can only come from what you can call a mixture of those models. We have found out that, for instance, government are not able to run business successfully. So whether we like it or not, when I was governor, I coined the frame, government has no business in business, but government have a responsibility to facilitate business. Okay, so when you look at that in terms of ideology, clearly what you're saying is that there has to be some kind of cooperation.
Yes.
Everybody has to do his own bit. What does government need to facilitate business? Government must try to ensure that there is a secured environment so that businessmen can be free to do what they know how to do. Government must provide infrastructure and ensure that there's power, there's water, and things like that. And when you look at all the businesses that government try to do themselves, the refinery, the fertilizer company, transportation, everything crashed. So you see, boiling down to the same thing, and the hue and cry today in Nigeria is still the same, that let government go and concentrate on what they should do, and let people develop enterprise. So what am I saying? Clearly, the evolution of ideology has more or less come together. And when you look at, again, the Nigerian political system, you will see that largely there is very little ideological divide. That's why you can see people in one party today, they go to the other party tomorrow. It's not because they are not principled, because in that case, those parties, the ideological are the same. So people are now just looking at the individuals and convenience, and that is what has happened to the polity. So those are what one can describe as one formative years. I hope I've answered it.
Wow, you have and more. It's such an inspiring formative years, I must say, especially to the young ones. And one can say that your success now is an accumulation of hard work. But I would love to ask, we want to know you better. If you weren't into politics like we all know and engineering, the engineering space, what else do you see yourself doing? What else do you love doing?
Well, when I was at the secondary school, like I said, that is where you begin to shape what you want to become.
Yes.
You know how it is when you study physics, chemistry, biology, then people are looking at you, do you want to be a doctor or something like that? When you drop biology and you say mathematics, physics, chemistry, that means you don't want to be a doctor, maybe you want to be an engineer, you know, or something like that. Back at the secondary school, in those days, you did virtually all the courses up to class 3. That's how it was in our time.
Okay.
So, incidentally, you know, class 3, sometimes you can be doing about 12 to 13 different subjects. So when you now come to class 4, they will now ask you to begin to look at the 8 subjects, or maximum 9, which you want to pursue at the school certificate examination. So that's when you now begin to look at what you want to do. My own challenge was a little bit simple. I think people said while I was in secondary school that I was a general all-round student, which means that mathematics, what we call additional mathematics, were my best subjects, and physics. But I also enjoy literature, especially the bit that has to do with reading about Shakespeare,
Wow.
you know, and things like that. We read about Wole Soyinka, you know, all his books and all of that. And I was also quite excited in the history class. So my teachers had a problem. I didn't like geography, but I liked history. I like English literature. So to some extent, my teachers were not so sure where they should push me.
Yes.
In fact, some of my teachers were sure that I was going to read law, whereas I knew that it would likely be engineering. You know that at the secondary school level, you know, one of my best friends was at that time Mr. Sidiku Bakare, who is now known as Tunde Bakare. And we met on the debating platforms. So he went and read law, and so he was also shocked. We came to the University of Lagos together when he saw me reading engineering. So I guess that if I didn't study engineering, I probably would have read law.
Such a revolution.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk more about your engineering. We know that, of course, you've had lots of time trying to make the business space better for you. I mean, at the age of 32, you're already the chief executive officer of your own company, Crystal Laurels. So you were doing great for yourself, if I must say. But you decided to foray into what some people call the murky waters of politics, and you never looked back. So what gave you such confidence?
Well, I guess that when you have, should I call it a restive mind, people usually say that in various things that I did, I peaked quite early.
Okay.
So when you get to the pinnacle of your career, definitely you are looking for something else to do. So I think that even before I started my own company, people were wondering why I wanted to leave a company where I was number 2 in Nigeria, the first and only Nigerian to have reached that position, a predominantly white-dominated company. So for me, yes, I had all the comforts. For my age, I was about 30. I had all the comforts, you know, travel business class, had good accommodation, generator, car, vehicle, driver, everything was there. So people were wondering what else was I looking for. But for me, I think I had gotten to what you can call the peak of my career. There were no longer challenges, and I'm looking for what else to do. So this is what drives sometimes a man. It's not necessarily money. Sometimes it's just a need for achievement. Psychologists call it ENAC. If your ENAC is high, you continue to, strive to. However,
Yeah.
moving from the private sector to politics was just service.
Okay.
It was simply that, okay, what next? You have a good running company, professional company, you've proved your point. It's an environment where people think that the black man cannot excel, so you got it there. So you prove it to everybody that, okay, you can excel, black man can do it, so we've done it successfully, what next?
Okay.
However, more than anything else, I became, partly based on some of my background at the school, I became confronted with a lot of inadequacies in the system, and I thought that the public sector provided ample opportunity to, let's say, spread the wealth and opportunities for people to develop themselves. Prior to the time, for instance, when I came into the murky political environment in Ogun State, I agree with you that it's totally murky. Previous governors got advice never to try to do everything at the same time because the resources would never be enough. So the advice many of our predecessors got was to say, look, if you want to concentrate on road, do your roads and you will be known to have done something. If it is healthcare, face your healthcare squarely. You can't finish everything. So that was the perception. But when I got that opportunity, I felt that if you concentrate on one aspect, it means that you are wasting the potentials and the opportunities for God knows what. And we are not going to get anywhere forever if that's what we did. So the challenge was to open up the state. And I then came to the conclusion that we have so much potential that needs to be unleashed. And we should unleash this potential simultaneously. So
Yes.
we wanted to do roads, we did. We wanted to do healthcare, we did. We wanted to do tourism, we did. We wanted to do industrialization, we did. We wanted to do sports, we did. And so virtually everything. And then the people of Ogun State then responded. It now became like a competition. Everybody wanted to demonstrate their skill, their capacity. So we unleashed the potential. That's what I think we did. And I'm quite happy looking back because virtually everything, education, we did a lot. I've even lost count the number of tertiary institutions, secondary institutions, private institutions that were established. When we were doing it, it was like, it's not possible. How are you going to get the money? And I said, look, it's not all about money. Part of the problems we have in Nigeria is that we throw money at everything. It's not all about money. I remember when we were trying to do the tertiary University of Education, and people say, oh, you cannot do it. You already have one, you're not wrong, you don't have enough. And I say, no. In fact, there used to be a clause or a statement that university administrators normally put out at that time, you need to pump money into the, you need to pump money. No, it's not about pumping money. Yes, money plays a role, but ideas, capacity to work, capacity, knowledge, that's what rules the world. And of course, I had always operated with the dictum of where there's a will, there's a way. So nothing stops me when I face a task. And that's what we did, how we did everything we wanted to do. People were shocked. Today I look back, I feel good. Many of those institutions that didn't look viable at that time have become very great institutions, turning out good students who are also contributing to the welfare of the society.
Yes, and thanks to your administration, many youths became politically involved because, there was education empowerment. I don't know if I can say same now because it seems that youths have lost all hope or interest when it comes to politics. So what's your advice to the youth?
Well, it's a tough one. Everybody appears to know the problem. Nobody appears to be willing to prefer the solution. The problem is very, very simple. The value system have completely collapsed. and a number of people who didn't go to school or who didn't have enough education have found foul means of making it, and that is what the other people are looking at to say, if these people can make it this way, why should I, bother myself? So part of what we need to reverse in our politics first is to ensure that we encourage good and we punish bad. Currently that is not happening, and I must say that most of the challenges we have as a people today is really circled around that. Why have our younger people become disinterested in politics? It's very, very simple. First and foremost, the political process have not evolved, I would say, positively the way it should have evolved. It does appear that everything now is about money because of the level of poverty in the environment. We don't have to be poor. Nigeria as a country have no reason to be poor. We demonstrated it because the Ogun State that I superintended over, I look at it as a microcosm of Nigeria. There is no problem that is in Nigeria that is not in Ogun State. Most people don't know. I used to crack jokes with one of my colleagues who was governor in Ekiti State, and I said, you have no problem here. The entire Ekiti State is completely homogeneous. It's either Ado Ekiti, Inye Ekiti, Ise Ekiti, everything is Ekiti. It's the same dialect, the same language, and everybody feels good and happy. Whatever you've done in Ado Ekiti, all the Ekiti people are happy because there's no issue. Now, that's not the same thing in Ogun State. All the challenges that we have in the nation exist in Ogun State. If you establish something in Abeokuta, oh, okay, yes, okay, it's capital, but the Jebus don't agree that is adding any value to them.
Yes.
The Yewas feel that, oh, you've not done their own. The Remon say, we are not even in Jebu, so the one you have done is Jebu, not Remon. So we have maybe about 5 states in one.
Yes.
Even in Ogun West, the Yewas, if you do something in Yewa, they are worried and say, no, that's Yewa, that's not a worry. So you are managing at least 5 nations, or let's say 5 states,
Yes.
where you are running the Ogun State. So it means, therefore, that, of course, for example, when I was doing tertiary institutions, I did virtually everywhere. I did in Ijebu, in Remo, in Egba, in Yewa, in Awori. When I was doing universities, the same. Where I can't do a full-fledged university, there's a campus that I put in another location. When I was building the state there, I built 3, I renovated the one in Abeokuta, brought it to standard. So the capacity to unleash talent is what makes a nation. And I am afraid that we have not been able to allow Nigerians to unleash. There is a lot of capacity in our country. We don't have any reason to be poor. If you look at it just from the perspective of natural resources, God-given resources, we don't have any reason to be poor. And in the course of my national runs, I had opportunity to visit all the states of the Federation. And I was pleasantly surprised, to find out that there is no state that do not have resources. So you are now hearing that there's a lot of gold being mined in Zamfara State, for instance. Yes, I had seen that in the course of my tour, that there is more than enough gold in Zamfara, even here in the southwest, in the Elisha axis, that can compete with whatever is anywhere, and it's there on mind. We have known that the bitumen belt that starts from Ogun to Ondo through Edo is probably the largest bitumen belt in the entire African continent. the only thing you require to tar roads, for instance, is bitumen. That's what you require. All the other things are here. Granite, if you know the amount of rock we have, lateral, everything is there. Why don't we have tarred roads? We have not unleashed the potentials that we have in this country. And even forget about natural and mineral resources. What are the human resources? You can't claim not to know that once upon a time, even now, go to many hospitals abroad, and in UK in particular, probably half of the people that confront you, when you ask them questions, you find out they're Nigerians. There was a time when Saudi Arabia was coming here to take a doctor. The same thing with nurses. So in the legal profession, maybe some of you don't know that until recently, the chief judge of Gambia or Senegal, they're usually Nigerians. Yes, so this is where we have everything and plenty. But these potentials are not being allowed to be unleashed.
Yes.
And I think it's a leadership issue.
I was going to ask, because of course you've just mentioned we are rich in natural resource and human resource. So what's your take? Is the problem with the practitioners of politics, or how Nigeria play politics? Because if you look at some countries that we attained independence about the same time, like India and the likes, they are doing great now when it comes to development of their countries. So what is the issue? Is it the way we are playing our politics in Nigeria that is holding us down, or the practitioners?
Well, without any doubt, leadership has a lot to do with it. And I'm happy that you used the Indian example. Many years ago, you know that the only thing you know India for was the Indian films you watch. The perception is that it's a poor country, but they have something going for them. They have a huge population, probably the second most populous nation on earth.
Mm.
And this population were largely poor. But they felt that they can make use of that population. So they started developing, their institutions, their medicine, and so on and so forth. But more than anything else, some people have opined that part of our problem is our wealth. Because sometimes if you have wealth and you don't know how to deploy it, you are very poor. So people like India, people like China recognize that they don't have wealth in terms of resources, mineral, natural resources, but they have human capacity. And that's what they developed on. So everything about India, if you go and look, you'll find out that now they are doing a telemedicine. And, Nigerian doctors used to be much better than Indian doctors. Now, we now have to take our people to India for difficult surgeries and so on and so forth. So they have developed their human capacity. And they are now exporting that capacity to earn foreign exchange. China knew that there were so many. There was a time they did birth control and all of that. But they decided, okay, what could we do with this population? We can turn it into a factory of the world and do virtually everything cheaper, which they did. But don't forget, there was something that was running in both countries. The decision to consume only what they produce. People used to wonder, when you see the Indian car, in those days, they will not allow you to bring or import cars you cannot produce. So they challenge their engineers. They challenge their entrepreneurs and say, look, we have a huge population here. We need vehicles, but it is only vehicle that you produce that you have a right to ride. To ride. So they went to work, and the citizens also were disciplined enough to know that they can only enjoy what they produce. And slowly, gradually,
They grew.
The same thing with China. Many years ago, nobody will touch a Chinese car. Even in Nigeria, went for the best, it has to be Japan. First it was Germany or UK, and then when the industry there went down, it was now Germany and Japan. And if anybody brings a Chinese car, say, who will ride it? Okay, now Chinese cars have taken over our road because there is no shortcut. The only way to development is to allow the people to develop capacity and to be disciplined enough so that we're not just consuming what we're not producing. All the problems that we have in Nigeria, I would say, all the classical economic theory have failed. All the IMF, it will continue to fail because nothing is missing. We are not being made to utilize what we produce. And for as long as everything is imported, there will never be enough foreign exchange. So we're not a productive economy. We're just a consuming economy. And what do they do in Abuja? They just fight on how to divide the money from petrol. The whole business of Abuja and all the people who rush there is just one thing: division, equitable division of the wealth. There is nothing about how to produce that wealth. So, therefore, if the price of petrol goes down in the market, we go into a recession. And once the price increases a bit, we say the recession is over. So all we are just doing is consumption, we're not producing. And that's really the tragedy of our country. Moving forward is very, very simple in our mind. A little bit of discipline. We may not be able to do as much as the Chinese did when they closed their borders completely, or how the Indians did it, but we can, to a very large extent. If we don't want to go and start from the scratch, start from the middle. There are quite a number of things that we just must. It is criminal for us to be importing furniture, because the natural material, which is wood, is from our forest. So let our carpenter and furniture makers make those furniture. And if they don't make it well today, they will make it well tomorrow, to an extent where they can also begin to export and earn money. But for as long as we are not doing things this way, okay, so they come, they fell our wood, they take it cheap, they take it abroad, add a little bit of value, do it nicely, import it back, and then we pay custom duty, we waste money on transportation and all of that, We won't be able to do much in this if we go like this.
Like that you mentioned the borders, but I know that there's some points that the borders were shut down, especially for agricultural produce, before it was opened. And there was also some news about, some kind of cheating when it comes to the borders now, the people handling the borders when it comes to importing things. Yes, like I said, discipline, because if the borders are shut and then people are still able to smuggle goods in and all this, then it totally goes against the whole idea.
Smuggling is a criminal offense. What is the punishment for smugglers? How many scapegoats have we made? That's what I said at the beginning, that in a country where there is no punishment for bad behavior, then everybody will behave badly. So it's fundamental. I do feel very strongly that there are enough rules in the Nigerian books to have law and order here. More than enough. But why are we not, ensuring that we play according to the books?
Yes.
That's really the issue.
True. Let's get into the insecurity in the country. There's been rising insecurity, banditry, killings, ethnic crisis, and some people have been clamoring for state policing as a solution for the insecurity issue in the country. So what's your take on decentralizing the security apparatus?
There's really no... It's very, very simple to understand. Just common sense. Just common sense. People who are saying they don't want the decentralization have made their own points. Basically, because of the experience of the past, and people think that the country must be together. If states or regions have their own police, then they can secede, or they can do this, or that they can be used to oppress local opposition and so on and so forth. Okay, that's quite correct. But I do feel that everything in life has its pros and cons. What we need to do as a people at any point in time is to look at the pro and con. And once the pro outweighs the con, we go for the pro. So in my own opinion, for the perspective of what we've even tried over the years, we have found that the central police system that we're running today is not effective, and it has to be decentralized.
Okay.
And we don't need to go too far. The people who colonize us, the UK, the American system, you know how they do their policing system.
Yes.
It's completely decentralized. And there's really no reason why we cannot do the same. So for me, that's very, very easy to take.
Okay, thank you, sir. Even still on the insecurity, you know, at some point, a particular tribe or a sect of a tribe were saying that indigents of another tribe should vacate their states. Reason being, they were implying that this other tribe is promoting or supporting violence. What's your take on that, sir?
Well, I don't subscribe to that. Basically, for the following reasons. There is no tribe that does not have good and bad people. And our people have a saying that if you have headaches, cutting that head is not the solution to the headache that you have. I am one of those people who strongly believe that we can run the polity better. I've told you the example in the Little Ogun State that I run. It is about management. The gulf between two groups in Ogun State can be as wide as the leadership wants it to be. And it can also be as nice. It's about leadership. Let me give you a typical example. Now, 10 years later, you know, they say insecurity, if you stay in a position, you cannot talk until after 10 years. So, because they feel like after 10 years you can talk. Let me give you a typical example. When I was governor of Ogun State, we just woke up one day and the operation was Operation Clean Lagos. Get rid of miscreants, beggars in Lagos, and so on and so forth. So we just woke up in Ogun State one day, one morning, and a report came to me that, oh, there have been busloads of destitutes that has been, brought in from Lagos and dumped in Ogun State. So I summoned a meeting and I said, oh, why did they bring them to Ogun State? If they are destitute, how did they know that they are from Ogun State for starters? So I got our people to go and interact with some of them, and they came back and said, oh, Your Excellency, some of them are, yes, from Ogun State, but a large number of them are not from Ogun State anyway. So I said, okay, what do we do? Oh, of course, Lagos was running with a different party from the party that were running in Ogun State, and there were all sorts of suggestions. Let us make press conference, let us agree, let us file, let us do this. I said, no, that's not necessary. Sure, they brought them with buses. No problem. You two go and organize buses. Give them some money, and overnight, return them to send. And then, they don't want to leave Lagos anyway. They rather stay in Lagos. So we just give them some little money, and you want to go back? Yes, I used to go back. And overnight, we return to sender. You see, that little thing could become a security issue in other climes, that before you know what is happening, people will start killing themselves. So this thing is just about management. There are quite a number of things like that we resolve. I had a situation, for instance, where some of our NYSC got to a state in the north, and they were not treated well, and it was like, oh, we can't serve in this place and all of that. And then the thing came to me and said, oh, what exactly is the problem? You are going to serve there, but if I can facilitate it, I will facilitate it. And we did some facilitation, and they served. We could have said, okay, they are not ready, they then return home. No. So I think that, yes, finally the president is not speaking time, but when I heard the president spoke, I said, okay, now the president is speaking, because he said that those herdsmen have never used AK-47. So if all of a sudden they start using AK-47, he said they should not just shoot them aside, they should do the needful. Okay? The issue is that how did they come about AK-47? Are they really herdsmen? Is there some other motive that's not clear to us? Is it a Fulani agenda? All of these things need to be properly checked. And if it is checked and you get honest answers, then the problem should be solved. I was listening to one of the activists recently who said, the late General Abacha said, if his insurgency lasts more than a week or so in a state and it's not quashed, then the powers that be knew about it. And I think partly that's why the president had to speak out. All these things that we are hearing were never there before. So what has changed? And I think that's what we need to find out. From my own perspective, there is more to it than meets the eye, but it can be checked. When you now go into what they call classical economic theory, Nigeria is a big market. The reason why a number of people are looking at Nigeria is because of the size. Because that has great potentials for products, for productivity, for investment, for things like that. So, whereas the people who are making arguments that they want to go their separate ways are doing it out of frustration. And this is a legitimate feeling. But I think, and I strongly feel that if we do have opportunity of leadership that is quite sensitive and appreciate some of these challenges, it can be resolved. Let me tell you another one. These challenges is not new in Ogun State, for instance. When I was governor in Ogun State, we had these challenges because the toll gate in Ogere that we created all of a sudden became like a city or a Hausa or Fulani city, more or less. Even in Randa, in Ayetoro area, the entire Yewa North, people don't know the Yewa North local government is probably the largest local government in Ogun State. But only about 15% is inhabited. The rest is forest reserve. So because the forest reserve, nobody goes there, it is a natural place where herdsmen bring their cows to.
Okay.
And from time to time you have these skirmishes. But it has never been any issue. We'll manage it, we'll resolve it quietly. People don't even know what's going on. So if we were able to resolve it then, what has changed? What has changed? So I think that there is still a lot of security work that needs to be done to actually decipher what is going on. But my own considered view is that the process of dismembering a country is not as easy as it sounds. The only time when it is easy is when all the component part of that country agrees that we want to go our separate ways.
Okay.
And the only way that it can happen is very simple. It's the law of survival. You need to give everybody the confidence, and that's where I started. And I am repeating and I'm emphasizing that Nigeria is not a poor country. There is no state, if you study geography, there is no state in Nigeria that does not have resources that can sustain them. But probably it is a constitutional lacuna, whatever it is, that has not allowed each of these states to explore their resources. If you allow Zamfara to mine their gold and get resources from gold, Zamfara will tell you that we don't need Nigeria, we can run on our own. And if we need Nigeria, let us contribute something from our gold reserve to Nigerian ports to run foreign affairs and all that, and then we can run our show. There will be no issue. But if the Nigerian government wants to take all the oil money in rivers, in Akwa Ibom, take all the gold money in Zamfara, and then the people are poor, they are seeing their gold going. The people in the Niger Delta are seeing degradation on their rivers. The farmland is gone, and there is nothing.
No balance.
Definitely, that this sort of crisis will start. So basically, I think the challenge we have is to give each and every state the rights to partake in whatever resources they have. in a way that's equitable and that is satisfactory largely to the state or the component.
Okay.
If that's what we call restructuring, if that's what we call decentralization, whatever name you call it, that actually is that's the issue. Once that is resolved, everybody is happy again.
Okay, Otunba, but with the length of time these issues have lasted, you know, the insecurity, the banditry killings, the farmers' headers crashes, do you still think that the recent leadership is capable of handling this?
I don't want to pinpoint. One thing I know about Nigeria and Nigerians, which gives me an area of hope, is that if Nigerians are unhappy, if they see a change, a positive change, a change that they can trust, Nigerians are prepared to give that change a chance. And it has happened in the past, you know, at some point in time, you know, they felt that, okay, they had issues with one military administration. And then it changes. It's Nigerians who jubilated, especially in this part of the country, and they're happy and excited that. So when that administration continues to do well and to lead well, they will enjoy the confidence of Nigerians.
Okay.
It's just unfortunate that most of those administrations are usually short-lived. Somehow reactionary events come into it and take them out. So I still feel that despite all the challenges we have, 2023 provides an opportunity. If Nigerians are able to elect somebody that they can trust, and that person begins to do what they expect, I am sure that you'll be shocked that Nigerians will forget about all these things that has happened and they will start to roll again. So that, I think, is a good thing about our country.
Okay. Otunba, your recent decamping from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress came as a surprise to many, and there's been lots of speculations and conjectures amongst your admirers and followers. I would want to ask, should we expect a run for a political office in the future?
Not exactly. Let me seize the opportunity to explain that, as I've explained to you, when you look at my political makeup, I'm a little bit to the left. And that's where I am coming from. My first incursion into politics indirectly, most people may not know, was even the UPN. And you must have heard stories that even as a student, I was the youngest member of Chief Awolowo's Committee of Friends at that time. And I know that at the University of Lagos, when the ban on political activities was lifted in 1978 by the outgoing head of state, Olusegun Obasanjo, I, as president of the Unity Party of Nigerian Student Wing, with a number of other competitors, including the same Tunde Bakare, who was my secretary. Tunde was my vice. Ifedile was the secretary. We were the one who first brought Chief Awolowo to the Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Education Lecture Theatre, and that was his first political outing, even as a student. So we had come to the conclusion that the way to go is what's called democratic socialism, which is what Chief Awolowo stood for, which means that, yes, democracy, but there must be a tint of socialism in the democracy. And what does that mean? It's a laissez-faire, it's a welfare system where there is consideration for the poor. In a typical, in a typical conservative system, the survival of the fittest is called capitalism. But if you look at what America is doing now, you've seen what Biden has just done, giving money to the poor. So that is where we're coming from. And so you shouldn't be surprised that when this new republic started, 1998, 1999, I was more of an AD person, an Afenifere person. And that is where I am coming from. So, when my people said I should run in 2003, unfortunately, probably because of the tradition in AD at that time, oh, it's not your turn. There's nothing wrong in that. With the benefit of hindsight, I would have probably even listened to them. But I had so much energy, so many people, and saying that, look, if they don't let us run, let's go to another party. And that's how we joined PDP. But everybody should not forget that while I was in PDP, I wasn't running the PDP administration per se. I was running what you can call a laissez-faire progressive government. And I had no issue with all the people who were in the other party. Even though they were in opposition, I ran not as a partisan governor. I ran as a governor of all the people. And I have even said in so many fora that if there is anybody in Ogun State who felt he was denied of any opportunity because he didn't belong to my party in the 8 years of our administration, he should raise up his hand. It didn't happen. So because I saw it from a particularly different perspective. So, and it is that AD that, went into ACN and went finally into APC. So you can call that party, to some extent, a progressive party, using the word progressive. And that's where my roots are. I've done my bit in PDP. I've used that vehicle to do what I had to do. I have no regret because we opened the state and everybody agrees to a large extent that we laid good foundations that we can be proud of. Okay? Now, going forward, I then feel that probably it's a lot better for me as I get close to retirement, to go to what you can call my natural habitat. And that is precisely what I have done. If something comes, yes, as long as God give me good health, and I still have the energy and the desire to help my people, yes, I will take it. But I have not gone there because I have something in mind and I'm going to be running helter-skelter. No, that's not it.
Talking about, I remember your campaign, many people refer to it as a revolution in the state because you visited, if not all the 236 wards of Ogun State, met with almost all the stakeholders of every street and areas, sharing your ideas. And I remember I grew up in Edition, so I know that you came to Lisharem at some point to open Boholand. The indigents came out in their numbers rejoicing, so many people were your supporters and, as supporting you. So we'd love to know, of course, it's exactly 10 years now, from 2003 to 2011. 2 administrations have emerged after yours. If there are some areas that are yet to be developed, that you feel are yet to be developed, what are they and how can they be developed?
Well, the administrations that have come after me in their own ways have done a lot of work. And everywhere, road constructions are going on. I've seen yellow roof. Incidentally, the current governor is known with color yellow. And so when you see those yellow roofs, you know that his hand is there, his school innovation. So a lot of things are definitely going on, and one is happy about that. And even the predecessor also did a lot of work. But what I think is missing, which I really believe needed to be looked into carefully, 2 things. One, the biggest problem in Nigeria and in Ogun State is job creation. And if you remember during my administration, one of what I call the hallmark of our administration is our capacity to create jobs. Apart from public service that we put in large number of people, we created all manner of blue-collar jobs. And this is coming out of the way we did our work. It is not just awarding contracts. Whatever you want to award, you must sit down and see how it benefits the masses of the state that we are running, the masses of the state. I remember that when I was in the saddle, I usually ask myself, before I spend Ogun State money, is this money that I'm actually going to benefit the masses of the people? If, or is it the way I'm executing it, is it going to be to the advantage of the masses or to the elite? So if it's to the masses of the people, I take it. If it's to the elite, I question it. I really think, that is something that I really feel that must be looked into. It's very simple economics. Keep Nigeria money in Nigeria. Keep Ogun State money as much as possible in Ogun State. That, for me, I think is the Israelis who have developed that simple economic theory. And I would recommend it to our people that whatever they want to do, if you are running nationally, keep Nigeria money in Nigeria as much as possible. Keep Ogun State money in Ogun State as much as possible. I think that's very easy for any elementary student to remember. Once you do it that way, you won't have any problems. Part of the biggest challenge is what happens to the local government administration. The local government is the administration that touches the people. And as governor of Ogun State, in all my 8 years, I did not touch one dime of local government money. Not only did I not touch, despite the fact that all the 20 local governments were under, my purview, I did not nominate any contractor to any of those local governments in all my 8 years. So, what did that bring? The entire state was unleashed. At the level of a state, you can't reach everywhere. But the local government have bigger capacity to get to the wards and all of that. And that is also going back to the campaign that you spoke to. Because in the course of that campaign, I went through all the wards, I spoke to all the leaders, I had a book, I recorded what they said, the biggest problem. Any ward meeting was okay, in this ward, if you want to list by area of priority, list 10 things that you think are most important for you, I didn't decide it for them. So they listed it. And then when I have resources, first we call the chairman, now these are the checklists of our people, tick, 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 tick. So you can't finish it, but if they list 10 people, 10 things, and you're able to do 6 or 7, the incoming administration does the same, will not be where we are. So what has happened? I think the government after me went to the House of Assembly and changed the rules. So a lot of money that normally goes, money for advertising, all sorts of refuse collection money, all sorts of money that normally goes to the post of local government, now comes to the post of the state. So in the process, local government are naturally stifled of funds. And I'm not even so sure under the law whether even the money that comes from the federal are given to the local government. It's the state is sitting on them. And I think that is what my successor did. And that is what actually killed the local government. And that's why people have lost a lot of confidence in government, because they can't feel government. So even when the state, at the state level, they are running health center, you can't say, on 1 or 2 occasions, because of traffic, I had to detour through certain roads in the last few weeks. And I said, oh God, there's work to be done. Ordinarily, some of those roads, we did it at the local government. Even patching some of those roads in so many years was not done, not because of the fault of the local government, but because the money that should normally go to them have now been appropriated to the state. So it is now the state that everybody will look up to. So a road that is normally there is what we call federal roads, state roads, local government roads. So a road that is naturally supposed to be local government road, you now have to go and beg the state governor. And how many can he do? So the more he sweats, as he's finishing one, another one is getting deteriorated. Because those things that happened in the past where you just go, fill all the potholes. At the state, we created a scheme. We said, Oklahoma is what we created to tar roads. I would say, look, local government roads.
if you want Ogroba to come and tie your roads, you use the money to do the drainage. So if you do the drainage and we see that it's done according to design, we'll come and tie it. And you can see how everybody was running. You know, it was going on effortlessly. We didn't award any contract. And that's really what I think we need to revert to. But, you know, many of the states are now enjoying the money of the local government. So the incentive to return power to local government is not there. But I think it's going to be in the overall interest of the state concerned to give power back to the local government. It's my own humble submission.
Thank you very much, sir, for your contributions on today's episode of Opinion Leaders Angle. Like you have had our dear Biscon family today on Opinion Leaders, Otunba Gbenga Daniel took us through challenges, the rising insecurity in the country, and how, and of course, he provides solutions. Until next time on Opinion Leaders Angle, stay safe, keep adhering to strict health guidelines. Bye.